Sean left work early to surprise his wife, but when he walked through the door, he was greeted by the last thing he ever wanted to see. There she was, in the bedroom with another man playing some kind of game. He didn't need to think twice. It had to be his boss. On his way in, he'd spotted his boss's belongings sitting right there on the table. Not wanting to interrupt their fun, Sean bolted out of the house and sped off in his car. His mind was racing, unable to focus on anything. That's when a carjacker jumped in and demanded his wallet. But instead of fear, Sean felt a strange rush of excitement. This guy had no idea who he was messing with. John, the carjacker, barely had time to react before Sean locked the doors. At this point, Sean had nothing left to lose. Why would he be scared of some petty thief? He deliberately swerved toward oncoming traffic, jerking the wheel at the last second. He blew through intersections without slowing down, letting the car veer wildly toward the curb. John frantically pointed his gun at Sean, screaming at him to stop, but Sean only floored it harder, whipping around corners. After tearing through an intersection, he steered into a narrow alley and started ramming into everything in sight. When he spotted a truck parked in the middle of the road, he gunned it straight toward it, ready to end his miserable life right then and there. But at the last moment, the truck driver pulled away and Sean's car shot past into the next street. Sean pulled out his wallet and asked John if he still wanted it, then chucked it right out the window. Next, he grabbed a can of pepper spray and blasted John square in the face. By the time John could barely pry his eyes open again, they were in the middle of nowhere. Staring at this cold, ruthless man behind the wheel, John came to a terrifying conclusion. This guy was a hitman, and he was about to be murdered and dumped in some remote field. John completely lost it. All he'd wanted was a little cash, and instead he'd picked the one psychopath in the city. He cursed himself for choosing the wrong target. Sean ignored John's panic and kept driving until they reached a gas station. Once there, he handed the gun back to John and told him to get out. John was thrilled. He couldn't get out of that car fast enough. But when he reached the roadside and tried to hail a ride home, he realized he was stranded in the middle of nowhere. So he trudged back to Sean and made him a deal. Give him a ride home, and he'd keep quiet about the whole kidnapping thing. Sean couldn't believe what he was hearing. He was the victim here, and now he was being called the kidnapper? Frustrated, he flagged down the gas station attendant to pay and leave. That's when he realized he was completely broke. He'd thrown his wallet out the window during his joyride. Luckily, there was still a credit card in the car. He rushed outside, hoping to ditch John for good. But as he stepped out, John tackled him to the ground. Sean tried to get up, only to catch a punch to the face. John had one goal. If Sean was leaving, he was coming too. John threw up his fists in some half-baked boxing stance, trying to intimidate the psycho killer. But Sean swung back with everything he had. John took the hit and burst out laughing. This so-called hitman punched like a girl. After easily blocking Sean's second attempt, John made a move for the car. Sean grabbed his shirt, and thanks to John's heavier build, he couldn't break free. As they struggled, they both lost their balance and crashed to the ground. Each one scrambled to get to the driver's seat first, but neither succeeded. Finally, they called a truce. When Sean told John about his wife's affair, John smirked, assuming Sean must have killed the guy and dumped the body somewhere. But Sean calmly admitted he hadn't done anything. He just walked away.
What a pussy!
John decided it was time to help Sean reclaim his manhood. But John wasn't exactly easy to deal with. While filling up the tank, he robbed the gas station owner. They'd barely hit the road when the owner came chasing after them with a gun. To make matters worse, a police car was blocking the road ahead. They spun around and found themselves sandwiched between the cops and a truck. But Sean didn't flinch. He drove straight at the truck, banking on his street racing instincts that the driver would swerve first. Sure enough, the police car and truck collided head-on while they sped away. Next, John and Sean hatched a revenge plan. First stop, a supermarket for supplies. John, ever the professional, grabbed 2 hats and stuffed them down his pants, then flashed them at a store clerk like it was no big deal. The clerk knew immediately something was off. She'd never seen anyone shoplift so brazenly. Hats secured, they hit another store. John walked in, spooked the lone employee, and walked out with 2 flashlights without breaking a sweat. That night, they arrived at Sean's office building. Only one security guard was on duty in the lobby. John grabbed a rock from a nearby planter and hurled it through a window. The shattering glass did the trick. The guard went to investigate. They slipped inside and made their way to the top floor where the boss's office was. John popped open the keypad panel and, drawing on years of experience, cracked the code in seconds. Once inside, the first thing they did was cover the security camera. To get back at his boss, Sean planned to take the $1 million stashed in the office. He flipped a switch, revealing a hidden safe. He punched in the code, and it swung open. After all, Sean had always been the boss's most trusted employee. He'd even helped hide this money in the first place. They stuffed the cash into a bag, pulled on their masks, and got ready to leave. But Sean still wasn't satisfied. He ripped the cover off the camera and flipped off the lens with both middle fingers, then launched into a whole series of obscene gestures. Double birds, rapid-fire birds, even one from between his legs. The boss was going to lose his mind when he saw this. But Sean wasn't done. He grabbed a decorative sword and hacked his boss's prized $100,000 sculpture to pieces. Then came the grand finale. Standing in front of the camera, he pulled off his mask and finally said everything he'd been holding back for years. With that weight off his chest, Sean left the building feeling genuinely relieved. He headed to a bar to meet up with Mary, a woman who'd been pursuing him for a while. Afterward, he called his wife, ready to end their 10-year marriage. But she stopped him cold. He had it all wrong. She'd been at the office all day yesterday. The woman in their house? Her sister. Sean's head was spinning. What about the boss's stuff on the table? She explained that he'd left it there after a party at their place weeks ago, and they just hadn't moved it. It had all been a huge misunderstanding. His wife had never cheated. Sean's face broke into a grin, relieved that he'd turned Mary down earlier. But his smile faded fast when he realized he'd also misjudged his boss. That $1 million had to go back immediately. Meanwhile, John was happily counting the cash at their hotel, completely unaware that the conspicuous bag had already caught the attention of some real criminals. When Sean got back to the hotel, he found John clinging to the balcony railing. If anyone so much as touched that door, John would plummet to his death. And even without interference, his grip was failing. Sean burst through the door, grabbed the bedsheet, and rushed to the balcony. He made it just in time, pulling John to safety. Without hesitation, they raced downstairs to get that $1 million back. The robbers hadn't gotten far. They jumped in their car and gave chase. John grabbed a weapon from the back seat, fired a wild shot, and somehow nailed one of their tires. The robbers' car spun out and slammed into a telephone pole. Armed and ready, Sean and John cornered them in an alley. Now calm and focused, Sean's aim was deadly. He shot the weapon right out of the robber's hand and retrieved the money without a hitch. John may have missed out on the fortune, but at least he made it home to his family in one piece. Sean wasn't so lucky. Sure, the misunderstanding was cleared up and the money was returned, but his boss had already called the cops. That priceless sculpture had been destroyed, and some masked lunatic had mocked him on camera. The boss was determined to unmask the culprit. But just as the mysterious figure reached up to remove his mask, the camera feed cut out. The boss was absolutely livid. Standing nearby, Sean could barely contain his smile. After all, no one would ever know that masked man was him.